31. Nancy Guthrie missing. I've never seen anything like it.
In the quiet stillness before sunrise on a February morning in 2026, Nancy sat alone at the wooden desk that had witnessed decades of her life. The Catalina foothills outside her window were dark and hushed, the desert air cool and unmoving. At 84, her hands trembled slightly as she began to write, not from fear but from the weight of honesty. This was not a holiday card or a casual note. It was something deeper, more intimate, addressed to her daughter, Savannah Guthrie. The letter carried words Nancy had long kept to herself. She wrote about strength, about silence, about the cost of always appearing steady. "I was never as unbreakable as I seemed," she confessed gently. The ink moved slowly, deliberately, as if each sentence required courage. She did not know that those pages would one day be read aloud with trembling hands. A sanctuary in the desert, Nancy's home in Tucson had been her refuge for decades. The burnt adobe house nestled near Campbell Avenue and Skyline Drive was more than architecture. It was memory layered in walls. Sunsets spilled warm light across the desert each evening, illuminating photographs of her late husband, her children, and her grandchildren. The Santa Catalina Mountains stood in quiet watch beyond her windows. She had planted roses in the courtyard herself, tending them patiently through Arizona summers. Inside, the rooms reflected a life of devotion and organization. Books were neatly arranged, faith symbols displayed with reverence. It was here she had celebrated birthdays, hosted church friends, and endured lonely nights after widowhood. Writing the letter in that familiar space gave her courage. Surrounded by reminders of love and endurance, she allowed herself to speak plainly about fears she had hidden for years, the shock that followed. When Nancy was later reported missing, the news rippled through Tucson with disbelief. What began as concern quickly became urgent investigation. Law enforcement officers canvassed the foothills, neighbors spoke to reporters, and prayer circles formed in quiet living rooms. Savannah's emotional appeal on social media brought national attention. Viewers across the country watched as a composed daughter asked for her mother's safe return. The family offered rewards and asked for information. Local congregations gathered to pray, candles flickering in the desert night. Each passing day deepened both hope and anxiety. Nancy's health concerns made time feel fragile. She relied on medication and careful monitoring. Friends described her as resilient but physically limited. The thought of her alone somewhere unsettled the community profoundly. For her children, the waiting felt endless and heavy. A devastating discovery. On February 10th, authorities confirmed the news no family ever wishes to hear. Nancy had been found in a remote area outside Tucson. Investigators shared limited details while emphasizing respect for the family's privacy. The sorrow that followed was immediate and immense. Tucson mourned a neighbor known for faith and quiet generosity. National audiences mourned with Savannah as she returned to the screen with visible grief. It was then that she shared portions of the letter her mother had written. Her voice trembled, but she read steadily, honoring the honesty Nancy had offered. What had begun as a private reflection became a lasting message. The letter stripped away the myth of invincibility and revealed a woman who had carried doubts, fears, and hopes beneath a composed exterior. In loss, those words became both wound and comfort. Roots in Kentucky, Nancy Ellen Long was born on January the 27th, 1942, in Fort Wright, Kentucky, during the uncertainty of World War II. The small town across the Ohio River from Cincinnati was steeped in community tradition and Midwestern values. Church bells marked Sundays, and neighbors gathered for potlucks and celebrations. As the eldest child of William and Jane Long, Nancy grew up with responsibility early on. She attended Catholic schools where discipline and faith shaped her worldview. At Notre Dame Academy in Park Hills, she developed a love of writing and storytelling. Teachers remembered her as thoughtful and articulate. She believed deeply in education as a path toward independence. The rolling bluegrass hills and close-knit neighborhoods of Kentucky instilled resilience and hospitality in her. Those early years formed the foundation of the strength she would later rely upon during life's most challenging chapters: college, journalism, and young love. Nancy enrolled at the University of Kentucky in the early 1960s, determined to pursue journalism at a time when many women were encouraged to prioritize domestic roles. She joined the student newspaper, the Kentucky Colonel, eventually serving as society editor. She approached stories with empathy, finding meaning in ordinary moments. During her college years, she met Charles Errol Guthrie on a blind date arranged by friends. Their first outing was a University of Kentucky basketball game, a Wildcats tradition. Charles's quiet confidence complemented Nancy's thoughtful intensity. They dated steadily, sharing dreams of travel and family. After graduating, Nancy married Charles on December 28, 1963, in a modest ceremony celebrated in local newspapers. Their marriage was rooted in faith and partnership. Together, they embraced the unpredictability of Charles's mining engineering career, trusting in shared resilience. A life across continents. Charles's work led the family to various locations, including Melbourne, Australia, where their youngest child, Savannah, was born in December 1971. 2 years later, the Guthries settled permanently in Tucson, Arizona. The southwestern landscape captivated Nancy. The desert's quiet strength mirrored her own. She devoted herself to raising Annie, Cameron, and Savannah with discipline, warmth, and spiritual grounding. Family hikes in the mountains and church gatherings filled their weekends. Nancy volunteered in schools and coordinated community events, earning admiration for her organizational skill and kindness. Her faith remained central. She believed deeply in perseverance and in guiding her children toward purpose. Those Tucson years felt idyllic until tragedy arrived in 1988, when Charles died suddenly of a heart attack at 49. Nancy, at 46, faced widowhood with 3 teenagers depending on her unwavering presence. Widowhood and reinvention. Charles's death reshaped Nancy's life overnight. Grief threatened to overwhelm her, yet she pressed forward, determined to provide stability. She returned to work in public relations at the University of Arizona, a position that allowed her daughters to attend tuition-free. Colleagues described her as composed and diligent, rarely revealing personal sorrow. She organized her household with military precision, ensuring her children could pursue their dreams without feeling financial fear. Savannah later credited her mother for encouraging her journalism studies at the University of Arizona. Nancy celebrated Savannah's achievements, from local reporting to her eventual role on national television. Through it all, she remained grounded in faith communities, mentoring younger women and supporting fellow widows. She embodied resilience, yet in her letter, she admitted the quiet exhaustion behind that resolve and the doubts she rarely voiced aloud. Hidden fears and honest confessions. In her final letter, Nancy wrote with unfiltered honesty about the fears she had concealed. She worried about finances after Charles's death. She questioned whether she had been too hard on herself and perhaps too demanding of her children. She acknowledged mistaking endurance for strength and hiding health concerns so as not to burden Savannah's busy life. Most tenderly, she reflected on her bond with her daughter. She cherished their shared understanding of loss and the friendship that had grown alongside their mother-daughter relationship. She expressed gratitude for her grandchildren, whose laughter softened her later years. If remembered, she hoped it would be for kindness and integrity rather than perfection. Those confessions revealed not weakness, but humanity. In admitting vulnerability, Nancy offered Savannah something she had rarely shown in life: permission to be imperfect. A legacy beyond headlines. Nancy's death left a profound absence, yet her words continue to echo. Tucson remembers her not only for tragedy, but for decades of service and devotion. Savannah speaks of her mother's faith and resilience while also honoring the deeper truth revealed in the letter. The story is no longer simply about loss, it is about legacy. Nancy's life stretched from Kentucky's bluegrass fields to Arizona's glowing sunsets, marked by dedication to family and community. In the end, her confession may be her greatest gift. By admitting she was not unbreakable, she reminded those who loved her that strength does not require silence. Her story endures in the lives she shaped, in the grandchildren who carry her blue eyes, and in a daughter who now understands her mother more completely than ever before.